On this episode of That One Movie Podcast, we are going to put the Patel to the metal.
Oh, nice.
You see what I did there. And we're going to review Dev Patel's directorial debut, Monkey Man. If you want to jump straight to that review, we'll start off spoiler-free, then we'll warn you before we dive into spoilers. Check the time codes down below, because beforehand, we're going to talk about some of the news from this week in the world of entertainment. Holden, what are some of our top stories from this week?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the apparently Dune Messiah is officially greenlit.
Yes!
Matrix 5 is being made.
Yes.
And then a writer for James Mangold's Star Wars movie has been confirmed. So interesting stuff here.
Oh, yeah. The Patel to the metal.
Yeah, you'd been holding on to that one, I feel like. You just came out running with that joke.
You know, I was thinking of, again, I like to poke fun at all the box office headline jokes.
Yeah. And that was the one you came up with for Monkey Man?
Yeah, Patel to the metal.
I mean, it's good.
And then I guess I could have used it for Barbie too. The pedal to the metal, metal, pedal to the metal. So
sure.
Barbie 2.
There we go. That's your prediction.
That's what we're gonna do. As always, use the time codes down in the description. Jump to any segment that you want to listen to, even more than what Holden mentioned. Yeah. I mean, so much in store. Otherwise, stick around for the whole show. We'd love to have you. I'm Jimmy Youthy.
I'm Holden Sutter.
And it's time for Tom.
Tom.
That One Movie Podcast. TOMP.
All right, Jimmy. Before we talk Monkey Man, let's do the Toms.
Let's do the Toms.
The Toms. Toms is the rapid fire segment in which we rate the news of the week in the world of entertainment on a scale of 3 famous Toms: Brokaw, Bombadil, and Bergeron. Brokaw's the highest, Bombadil's the lowest, and Bergeron is somewhere in between. Jimmy, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Trailer number 1 this week, Holden, we have Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops.
Yes. Related to the second trailer, Cocoa Puffs, in a way. But yeah, no, Cuckoo, this is a new horror indie film that has been, it's been like a thing for a while now. I remember seeing images and like hearing about it at film festivals like mid last year, and it's just now, I think, getting a release later this year. But yeah, starring Hunter Schafer, Dan Stevens, who we just saw in Godzilla. I was
going to say, is that Godzilla guy?
Yeah. And some others. What'd you think of the trailer?
Well, looks like it could be really fun. Mm-hmm. Weird horror movies. I love weird horror movies.
Yeah.
Weird concept. Silly, goofy, but also intense horror movies. Mm-hmm. You know my love for Barbarian.
Sure.
And I think this gives me similar vibes. I am like, it just, as long as it keeps clicking, you know, like I think it's just like horror movies, you just got to keep rolling, fast pace, have it be fun, have it be silly. I really like the design of like this entity.
Yeah, this lady thing
that is like chasing after our protagonist in the trailer. Don't get a good look at her, but there's a lot of like the quotes from critics and whatnot saying like the body horror is great and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully that rings true. I mean, obviously Neon is one of the studios. They're very bold projects. To say the least. So
they're kind of like A24 in some ways, except I feel like they just go to like stranger places in a lot of ways. Even though A24 is like known for that, but I feel like they have a lot more variety in what they kind of
it's even like bigger swings. Like A24 takes big swings. Neon's like, here we go. I mean, Neon might maybe less of a consistent track record, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, they're not as widely known as A24, but I mean, they distributed like Parasite.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously didn't make it, but that was a big win for them. So
yeah,
cool.
I think it's good time. I'll give it a Brokaw.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna quick look up the release date.
Yeah, I forgot to write that down. Yeah, it's a Brokaw for me as well. Looks cool. Hunter Schafer is great. Dan Stevens, what I've seen of him, he's good too. Yeah, it's just a very interesting. As long as it remains like if it's a fun horror movie, which the trailer seems to indicate that it's fun. So hopefully it remains consistent.
August 9th.
August 9th.
We can look forward to that in 2024.
August is looking to be like there's actually movies this year that are coming out because usually August is like dry in the middle of the year.
What they say, it's the dog days of the cinema.
It is
August.
Do they say that?
No.
Okay.
I did though.
All right. Well.
And now they will.
Next trailer we have Unfrosted, the Pop-Tarts story. This is a Jerry Seinfeld production. It's coming out on Netflix. Apparently, from what I understand, this is like based on a stand-up bit that he does.
Okay.
It's just him like
What's
telling
the deal with Pop-Tarts?
I don't know what the bit really is, but this movie is clearly like a satire on various like corporate biopics that have been kind of big lately, I think. It gives me kind of weird Weird Al vibes.
I thought the same exact thing watching the trailer. Weird Al, definitely hints of Barbie in there.
In the production, yeah. Design.
When this trailer first started, I was very skeptical, and I actually think this looks really funny. I love the whole analogy of like the space race.
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty funny.
I think that works really well, and the whole 60s like background. Who was JFK? It was like Bill Burr or something.
I think it's Bill
JFK.
Burr, which is pretty funny. The trailer itself has some pretty funny moments. This movie has the potential to just be the most annoying movie ever made, though. I think, I don't know. It could be very funny, and I want to be optimistic. I think the trailer is pretty good in showcasing that, but I also just think with like the concept and some of the people involved, it's like I don't know who.
I think you could have said that about the Weird Al movie though too.
I think
true, it gives me very, very similar vibes.
It does.
Like here we're taking this concept. We're just clearly making fun of it.
Yeah, that for musical biopics. This for like Flamin' Hot,
yeah,
or something like.
Seriously though, and I think the trailer worked really well for me, and for something that was not on my radar at all. I'm actually excited for this. I think May 3rd was our release date here, so I'm gonna give this a brokaw, Holden, because as someone who doesn't really eat Pop-Tarts, maybe I should more. No, they're just straight sugar.
Jimmy, why did her husband explode if they work at a cereal company?
I thought that was
pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, I'll give it. Even though I'm apprehensive, I'll give it a brokaw because the trailer itself is pretty good. So we'll see how it turns out.
Are you supposed to put them in the toaster? Are you supposed to just eat them? What's the deal? I don't know what to do. I'm not ready to make these decisions this early in the morning.
I am curious though, Jimmy. Do you toast Pop-Tarts when you've had them?
No, I've never done it. I've only eaten maybe like 2 Pop-Tarts in my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I used to have Pop-Tarts quite a bit, but I hardly ever toasted them.
I'm a toast and bacon man.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Except I hardly ever eat breakfast ever.
Same.
So
yeah, we're just unhealthy like that. Anyway, Jimmy.
Well, Holden, just exposing these breakfast companies, so they call them, the studies of like, what's the breakfast is the most important meal of the day, sponsored by like Kellogg's.
Oh yeah, I have heard that that saying doesn't really mean any. It's the most important meal of the day is just like whenever you decide to eat first. So if that's like lunch, that's like just make sure you have a good lunch or something. It's
the most important meal of the day is the next one. Am I right, ladies and gentlemen?
Heck yes. Yeah, Jimmy. So first off, we've got some Disney release dates. They had like a conference call thingy this week, announcing some stuff. The Mandalorian and Grogu is coming out May 22nd, 2026.
Wow, so exciting.
Apparently it's coming out like mere weeks after when the current next Avengers movie is scheduled. So it seems kind of stupid if that's true. Toy Story 5 releasing June 19th, 2026. And Tron Ares releasing October 10th of next year, 2025.
Wow. 10-10. Binary. People were into that, I saw. Toy Story 5, I forgot that was a thing.
Same here.
Wow. I mean, release dates come, they change, they go. Is this going to be the next Star Wars movie? Mandalorian and Grogu?
Yeah. Because, I mean, even if that Rogue Squadron movie is happening, I don't think there's any other movie that's like coming sooner.
So 2 years away from that. A year and a half from Tron and about 2 years from Toy Story 5. So.
I was looking up stuff about Tron Ares, and I was realizing how the majority of the cast in the movie seems really, really good. And it's just Jared Leto is a sour apple that's like souring it for me. Because I'm well known for my love for Tron Legacy. So I should be super excited for this, but Jared Leto is really kind of bringing this down. The fact that he's the lead in it.
Yeah, well, it's a very cool movie aesthetically. Tron Legacy, not Tron 1. Tron 1 is not very good. Take off your nostalgia. Are either
goggles.
of them very good? Take off your nostalgia goggles.
I think Tron Legacy is better than people gave it credit for at the time. I think people are coming around on it a little bit too. So, director of Top Gun Maverick.
There we go. Is this one too?
I don't think so.
Okay. Release dates. Who cares? They're going to change anyway. Bergeron.
Yeah. It's a Bergeron for me too.
Is there a Mandalorian season coming up before this?
I don't think so. I think this is the next Mandalorian content we're getting.
Jeez. What is happening?
I mean, at least as far as I know.
But man, there we
Who
go.
cares?
Bergeron.
Dune Messiah, Jimmy. As if we weren't able to guess it was happening. It is officially happening. Legendary confirmed. And it seems to be...
Well, it's officially in development.
Officially in development, yes. It seems to be Denis Villeneuve's next movie as well.
I don't think so. I think you did not read that correctly. They're making a project called... It's like Fallout. Something... Not Fallout like...
No, see, I saw... When I saw...
Nuclear...
When I was... I have that written down here. When I wrote that down... Or when I read that, it said that was his project after Dune.
Well.
You can double check.
Let's double check here. What's going on? Denis Villeneuve.
See who's right, who's wrong.
Denis Villeneuve.
Or maybe they didn't say anything of the sort, and then we're just both speculating.
Following the massive success of Dune Part 2, director Denis Villeneuve may have found his next project. The filmmaker is in discussion to reunite with Legendary for an adaptation of Annie Jacobson's Pulitzer Prize finalist Nuclear War scenario. Variety has confirmed.
All right. Well, if it is in that order, that's honestly better anyway.
I wanted to make the Cleopatra movie, Holden. I don't care about, look, nuclear war happened. Oh, too bad.
So, okay.
That sounds like an Alex Garland
Civil War. It sounds like Civil
movie.
War. So I'll mention it here too. So yeah, Denis Villeneuve is directing a movie called Nuclear War, a Scenario, which is apparently based on a novel of the same name by Annie Jacobson.
That's a terrible title. I'm sorry. Like, just call it Nuclear War.
I'm sure that's what. I don't think they're going to include the scenario in the movie title. I bet it's just going to be called Nuclear War.
A scenario.
Yeah. But anyway, the novel is about what would happen. The article I was reading described it as a nonfiction book, but it's literally like a speculation thing. So I don't know, but it's about what would happen to humanity should a nuclear war break out. The novel is sourced from like military personnel, civilians who know response plans, and others to create like an authentic scenario as possible, I guess.
This is Civil War.
Yeah, it is Civil War. It is very similar. I like. Don't get me wrong. The fact that Denis Villeneuve is like attached to this is kind of interesting. That makes me think that he might have like a vision for it. And so, him being attached to it alone like gets me interested, I guess. He's not like Alex Garland is a lot more inconsistent. Denis Villeneuve is like has not missed. Yeah, has not missed. So could be interesting. Who knows? But it's not. Yeah, it just seems like it'll be a very depressing movie to watch.
Also, it's not clear if he's directing it or not at this point. They said he may be just like a producer.
Oh, okay.
I want to see Cleopatra more than this, quite definitively. He also has talked about wanting to make a Batman Beyond movie at some point.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that. That'd be so cool.
I would much rather see either of those two things over this. And I'm sure, like, if this movie came out, Denis has not missed, it would be very good. I just am like, in a vacuum, what do I want? I would never say, you know what? I want Denis Villeneuve to just make some really depressing movie about what will happen with a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Like, I think we already know nuclear war would be bad.
Yeah.
We don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just not the most interesting because all of his previous movies have been very like interesting concepts, even if they're based on prior IP. Obviously with Dune, you got Blade Runner or even stuff with like Arrival, Sicario. It's all very interesting concepts. And this is just like, it's, yeah.
It could be really
Alex
cool.
Garland Civil War.
Could be really cool.
Could be. I'm sure it will be good if he directs it.
But look, excited for Dune 3, Messiah, whatever they end up calling it. So
should we put?
I'm going to say that's a bro call.
Should we make non-monetary bets about whether or not they call it Dune Part 3 or Dune Messiah?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'll say not the 5 UN bill, wherever that is.
I think it's at my parents' house, so I can dig that
We'll
out.
bet the 5 UN bill for long-term listeners. That I'll go. I'm gonna say that it's Dune Part 3 because I know that you want to say it's Dune Messiah, right?
Yeah, I want to say it's Dune Messiah, but I'm also kind of wondering if it's going to be a combination of the two. And they call it Dune Part 3 Messiah.
So, I will just take Dune Part 3.
Okay.
And then if they call it Dune Messiah or Dune Part 3 Messiah.
Okay.
If Messiah appears in the title somewhere,
sure.
you get it.
If it's Messiah, a Dune story. Yeah, no.
Dune, a scenario.
Yeah, Dune broke off for me. Always happy to hear that. If I wrote that down wrong and Nuclear War's coming out next, good. That's honestly better. Have the time gap. That's cool.
Well, if there's a nuclear war next, then we'll never see Dune Part 3 on.
But for the Nuclear War itself, yeah, it's a Bergeron for me.
Yes.
Real life Nuclear War, Bombadil. Not a fan of that.
So I guess just to put a bow on it, hold on. You pick one of the 3 movies. You got Nuclear War movie, a scenario. You got Cleopatra. You got Batman Beyond, hypothetically. Which of the 3 would you want?
Batman Beyond.
Okay, there you go.
100%. I love the Batman Beyond cartoon. I've rewatched it all a couple different times. Oh gosh, it's so good. And I think he would be perfect for it, especially with that Blade Runner aesthetic. So
absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy. Next up. The Matrix 5 is apparently in development. Drew Goddard is going to write and direct it. He wrote and directed Bad Times at the El Royale, as well as Cabin in the Woods. But he also wrote The Martian and a lot of the Daredevil show.
He wrote The Martian?
Yeah.
Like the movie The Martian or the book The Martian?
The movie The Martian.
Okay. So he adapted the book.
Yeah, adapted the book. It's the first film without a Wachowski directing, although Lana will be an executive producer.
Yeah, so meaningless.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis will not be involved.
Yeah, at all. The name's just there to get people okay with
Produced by Steven Spielberg.
it. Yeah. Apparently Goddard had come to Warner Bros. With the idea and like pitched it as an idea as where to take the franchise. So it's not just like a writer director being hired for this. It's something he wanted to do. But I don't know, man. I didn't really like that last Matrix movie.
I think it's fine. I honestly do. I really did not like the first act of that movie, but I thought the rest of it was okay. I just am like, Matrix retirement. Like, let's get it done with. You know what word that starts with an R are they going to pick this time?
Yeah, I don't know. Recycled.
Matrix.
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
What is it? Matrix Reloaded Revolution?
Yeah, and then
Revolutions.
And then Resurrections.
Resurrection.
Most recent one.
Matrix Recalculated.
Yeah, I don't know.
Reconciliation. I bet it's reconciliation. Boom.
The thing is, the Matrix
Lock it in.
The Matrix has never been like a special franchise for me. I don't think it has for you either, really. Like, because prior to us reviewing the movies on the podcast, I had only seen the first one. And like the very first time I saw the first movie, I didn't really like it. I liked it more when we talked about it for the podcast, but we still are on the Reloaded train.
Reloaded is a great movie, man. The Matrix sequels overhated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly.
Well, and
Reloaded and Resurrections are like good, fun, early 2000s action movies.
I think both of those movies are getting kind of a cultural reappraisal to some extent. I think there's a lot of people coming around on them. But regardless, I mean, like I liked Reloaded a lot. I liked the first one. Revolutions was fine, but it's not like a series that I hold like a soft spot for or anything. It's not like I'm clamoring for more Matrix sequels.
No,
it's not. I don't know. And it just feels like Resurrections already, I didn't really like it, but the whole concept of the movie was just poking fun at like this exact thing happening. Just like sequels, unending sequels of the Matrix. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Seems goofy that they do it, but I guess money.
I'm at a Bombadil, I think. I just think we need to just let it end.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think I'll be at a Bombadil too. I do think Drew Goddard has done some very good stuff, but
who did he do Resurrections? Sorry,
No. That was a Wachowski.
That was a
Those
Wachowski.
Yeah, this is the first one without a Wachowski involved.
I'm gonna go Bombadil, but you know, it'd be cool to have a good Matrix sequel. I'm just like, do we need it?
Yeah, what's it gonna be? Is Keanu Reeves back? Who knows? Fantastic Four, Jimmy. Just a little bit of a casting news. Julia Garner has been cast as the Silver Surfer. She's most well known from things I haven't seen, but like Ozark. She's one of the main characters on that. She
related to Jennifer Garner?
I don't think so, but good question. No idea.
Julia Garner. I need to just look up this person. Doesn't.
Oh, yeah, she's in that Inventing Anna series, which people were obsessed with a bit on Netflix.
Nope. She's not related.
Okay. But there's also, since Silver Surfer, she's Silver Surfer, probably going to be Galactus as the villain, as was previously speculated.
Wait a second, hold on. Isn't Silver Surfer a man?
Traditionally, I think, but who cares?
What the heck?
Who cares? But one thing I saw this theory online that I don't think necessarily holds like any true weight, but it was interesting to me if it's like something that comes to fruition with this. The Fantastic Four stuff that has come out, like there was that initial image, the art of like Pedro Pascal and everything, and all the art that's come out since has had that like retro 60s aesthetic and everything. And people have speculated that like, what if this is set in an alternate MCU reality, but then Galactus like wins and just eats the Earth and they end up in the mainline MCU reality at the end? I think that might be interesting.
Yeah, well, I think I said this multiple times in the podcast before, but I was like, it is a matter of time before one of these movies, like either as a twist, I was going to say like as a twist, it takes place in a world that's like, this is just not our reality.
Yeah.
But like if it's just the premise from the beginning, that also works too. I think that makes sense because then it's like, well, where have they been and all that.
Yeah.
I think that it feels very natural to do that. And I think that is a cool way of like establishing the stakes of, oh gosh, Galactus literally destroyed our entire universe as we know it in our realm. And we're going to need to stop him from doing that to everybody.
Yeah. That'd be a very interesting way to take it. And once again, this is based on purely just speculation that people have online based on the fact Galactus is in it, the aesthetic of the movies seemingly, but very cool concept if true.
Yeah. So Julia Garner, have not seen her in anything, so I'm going to give her a Bergeron.
Yeah,
I am not upset that they're changing the Silver Surfer to a woman because I don't know anything about the Silver Surfer. I saw that one movie from the mid-2000s.
Rise of the Silver Surfer. Yeah, I mean, I've heard she's very good in Ozark, but yeah, I have not seen it myself. So Bergeron. Jimmy. James Mangold's Star Wars movie is to be written by Andor writer Beau Willimon, apparently. Willimon specifically wrote the whole Narkina 5 arc of Andor, whose episodes...
The prison.
Yeah, the prison, whose episodes include both of those fantastic speeches by Andy Serkis and Stellan Skarsgård. So...
oh, yeah. Golly. So good.
He was also showrunner of the first 4 seasons and creator of House of Cards. So
Never watched House of Cards.
I haven't either, but apparently it's good. Until maybe the last season.
Until it fell down.
Yeah. This is exciting. I think one thing I was thinking about is James Mangold, Indiana Jones wasn't very good, but I feel like all of his movies where he's been very good, he's had like a very good writer on.
I was going to say, didn't he write Indy 5?
I think so. Yeah.
Maybe that's the problem.
That could have been the part of the issue. So, I mean, like, because he did like Logan, who he had the writer of like Blade Runner 2049 on that and everything. And I feel like all of his movies that have been critically successful have had different writers on it. So this might be a good sign, honestly.
Yeah. I will give it a Brokaw Holden because I'm excited for this.
That's absolutely a
this
Brokaw
movie
for me too. This is the Jedi Origin movie, by the way, just for those of you curious.
Is that what it's called? Do we have a name for this?
I don't think there's a name for it. It's just the one that's like 100,000 years ago. It's the first Jedi or whatever.
Yeah, the first Jedi.
Jimmy, and the last piece of news is Supergirl, The World of Tomorrow, the new Supergirl movie for the new rebooted DCEU. Looks like Craig Gillespie, however you say it, is in talks to direct. He previously did Cruella, I, Tonya, and that Dumb Money movie that you saw that I haven't seen. So
Supergirl. Well, that's quite different than I, Tonya and Dumb Money. I never have seen I, Tonya. I got to watch that.
I, Tonya is good.
Cruella, I think was well directed. So,
yeah, had some good stuff in it. It was a weird movie. I think we
that
liked
is
it
a
more than an average person.
Oh yeah, I think so. My sister really likes Cruella a lot. I think that's a strange movie. How did this movie come out and get made? And it's got Emma Stone in it.
Yeah.
What a bizarre movie to exist. I think this is a good thing though. Supergirl, having a superhero genre is a little bit different, but I'm sure cool. Brokaw.
Yeah. I think I'll give it a Bergeron just because, I mean, his movies are, I feel like Tonya's his best one. I haven't seen Dumb Money, but yeah, I don't know enough about him. I'll give it a Bergeron.
Okay.
But that's it for Tom's this week, I believe, Jimmy. Unless there's something else you had. But if
not off the top of my head, there probably is something, but
there probably is something. There's probably like a gaming news thing I forgot to write down.
Probably
look up.
massive stuff came out.
Yeah.
TOMP
is Jimmy.
I thought we were not going to do it unless there was something to say.
Yeah, I guess there probably wasn't much to say this week.
So that's it.
No TOMP this week. But with that, let's get on to our review of Monkey Man. All right. Monkey Man, starring, directed, and I believe written by Dev Patel.
Mm-hmm. Patel to the metal. Here we go, Holden.
His directorial debut. Do you want to give your off-the-cuff synopsis?
Off-the-cuff synopsis? Look, it's a revenge movie. So Dev Patel's like, hey, you guys did something that made me sad and mad, so I'm going to just slowly work my way to your inner circle, and then I'm going to punch you and beat you up and kill you.
That's a cool poster.
And it's also pretty much identical to the first Omen poster, which is really funny because they both came out the same day.
Apparently that movie is good.
Yeah, apparently it is good. This movie, it's a revenge film. It's got it takes that John Wick-esque and it mixes it with Hinduism, and gives it this flair. There's some political undertones, if you will, some social commentary. If you don't like social commentary, steer clear, because it's like, hey, corruption.
They made Monkey Man political.
Oh my gosh, Monkey Man more like wokey man.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? So if you don't like, oh my goodness, corrupt politicians preying on the weak, the masses.
This movie's not for you.
Not for you. But if you like,
luckily, I love corrupt politicians preying on the weak. So this movie is for me.
Awesome. And then those corrupt politicians getting the snot beaten out of them. Yeah. No, this movie, it's obviously, I think like Dev Patel seems to be like a well-liked actor and director and stuff. So I feel like people are rooting for him. I think this movie's okay. I was a little skeptical going in. Then you had all the really good reviews and a lot of raving. I was like, oh, okay. And then I watched it. I was like, there's ideas here, and I'm excited to dive in. I really liked certain moments of it, but there were some creative decisions that just did not work for me, and I think just detracted from the story. And it, for me, I like this might be like, it's pretty much level with like Extraction. Like this and like Extraction are very similar to me.
Yeah.
I actually think maybe Extraction from like a action movie standpoint is better, but all the stuff outside of the action is better in Monkey Man. I that's kind of where I'm landing with this. So the fact that, I don't know, like to me, this could have just been a Netflix movie. Like if I was Jordan Peele and I saw this, I wouldn't necessarily have been, oh my gosh, I need to buy the distribution rights to this movie to make sure it gets into theaters.
Yeah, so I guess we should mention that this was a Netflix original movie, and then as Netflix or Jordan Peele saw it, loved it, bought it for like $10 million. Now it's like released under his label in Universal's. I liked this movie overall. I'm definitely more positive on it than I am negative, but I
am too. By the way, I'm going to come off as very negative. I think this movie is a pretty decent movie. It is not a great movie in my opinion. Though.
Yeah, I think it's a very ambitious first directorial attempt. Like in terms of filmmaking, it's very, very I don't know how they did it. Apparently there was a lot of like injuries on set and
a
everything.
lot of passion, literally blood, sweat, and tears went into this, and I admire that a lot. And I think, I'm for this. I want Dev Patel to be successful. I'm glad people are enjoying this movie.
So I mean, when you watch the trailer, I mean, you kind of get a glimpse of the action scenes and everything, and how they play out or how they're filmed. Apparently, and this makes a lot of sense to me. I was thinking this while watching the movie. One of the assistant directors worked on The Raid. Apparently,
okay, which I have not seen any two Raid movies.
There's two. I've only seen the first one, but from what I've seen of The Raid, there's a lot of The Raid influence in this, in terms of how the action scenes are shot. They're really well choreographed like The Raid, but it's not as like smooth as something like John Wick in terms of the camera work or anything. Very similar to The Raid in that way. But I do think the action scenes overall are probably the strongest part for me. But unfortunately, there's just like not enough of them, I think. For me, and I don't necessarily want to like come off as thinking like, oh, you know, I hate when movies are slow or whatever. But to me, the biggest detractor from this movie is I think like the story wasn't engaging enough to be as much of the focus as it was. And I was thinking about this earlier today, actually. I was like comparing it to John Wick in my head, right? Which I think is inevitable. They even talk about it in the movie.
They literally say John Wick in the movie.
Yeah. So the influence there is undeniable. But like John Wick, the story's not great. But in John Wick, at the very least, it's campy. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's got this really stupid world like in it. The characters are likable enough. And this, it's just, I don't know. I feel like they spend so much time on our main character's like tragic backstory. And when we finally see the full thing, I think that's done really well and is interesting. But I think like we didn't need all of the time spent on that to understand it maybe.
Here's one of my issues with the film.
Sure.
Is it's okay. There's this tragic thing that happens to Dev Patel's character, which I cannot remember his name to save.
Well, no, he like doesn't really have a name. So like he uses the synonym Bobby out like towards the beginning. But otherwise, he doesn't really have a name. Monkey Man, Kid. So I can just call him Bobby.
Kind of similarly to John Wick, he doesn't say really anything in the movie.
No,
he doesn't really have a character other than just he's sad and he wants revenge. That's basically the depth of his character, which is fine for an action movie. Like you don't necessarily need more than that. But my thing is, it's like we quite clearly understand what has happened to him.
Yeah.
And we know what's happened. We just don't know exactly how it happened. And it's like just spoon fed to us through these flashbacks throughout the whole movie. And one of my problems with this movie is like we see the whole movie like through the perspective of Dev Patel. So why are we getting these flashbacks? Like if we're in the mind of Dev Patel, shouldn't we already know all this stuff? Like there's just like a disconnect. Like, oh, you're slowly revealing things to the audience, but Dev Patel's not like he's slowly seeing these things himself. It's not like he got hit in his head and he's like, I don't remember anything. And
I mean, I guess like in defense of that, if I recall correctly, most of those flashbacks are done like in the context of him like sleeping or remembering something crucial or something. Like it feels to me like it's him like revisiting it.
Sure, but like I think we could have just seen the whole thing right at the beginning and like been able to put those pieces together ourselves rather than like, ooh, what is happening? Ooh, intrigue. It's like it just does not. I think it just hurts the pacing of this movie that kind of similar in my opinion to the first 3 John Wick movies. They're all 15 minutes too long. And I just think that this movie also falls under that. And like we can put together like this guy got a scar. So it's going to be that, like the guy we see with the scar where the guy in the flashback got the scar, that's going to be the same guy. Like I think you can trust your audience enough to know that than to like break this flashback into several little pieces, show it, and then show the whole thing towards the end. Because it's supposed to be like a reveal, and it's like, okay, we already knew this already.
Yeah, I think the way you go about it is either have the little sprinklings in there and then just not have like the full sequence and have it be implied, or you just don't have the sprinklings and then have the full sequence in there. Like you could have it like throughout the movie, kind of like, you know, he says some things or like some like reacts to some things a certain way. And then later in the movie, when you see the full sequence, you get the context of why he does that by that flashback. But we don't really need everything.
But that's where I struggle with like the point of view thing. Like if we're supposed to see this from his point of view, then we should have his memories. Like we should know where he's coming from. We should know why he's trying to do this. Instead, it's like you have his point of view, but there's still this another like level where you're not actually in his point of view. So that way you don't really relate to what's going on in his brain. And I think that just when you already have such little character, like we need to at least be in his position to understand this and why, like to not only understand why he's doing it, but like feel it too, like to feel like, oh my gosh, this happened to me and I want revenge. And you don't really feel that because of it, because it's so, you know, it's just dripped. You just understand it.
I feel like, and I kind of understand, at least in concept, why they didn't just show the flashback at the beginning. And I think it's just because that's like a cliche, right? Just show the tragic backstory at the beginning and then you have and so I feel like they wanted to present it a little bit differently. I don't think it entirely worked the best, but I mean, I guess kudos for trying.
Yeah, they tried. This movie does try things. It's got a lot of cool ideas in it. I just think like I get you don't want to avoid that cliche, but John Wick, the movie starts and his dog is killed. Like you get it. Like you know, I just think that this ended up having the unintended consequences of breaking that point of view and also slowing down the pacing. And I don't think it was worth it to try to just avoid the cliche.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with that. I just think they use this movie is pretty much almost entirely shot on like telephoto lenses, which means like zoomed in.
Well, I saw somewhere that I saw somewhere that apparently one of their cameras broke at one point. I don't know if this was like because of it, but I didn't even notice in the movie that apparently part of the movie is shot on an iPhone.
Really?
Too. Yeah.
Interesting.
Which I mean, kudos to the movie. You can't really tell. It looks pretty consistent throughout.
Well, if it's some of the action stuff, I could understand. If it's just some of the normal movie stuff, then that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've confirmed when that is exactly. But.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like when the movie doesn't use its telephoto like close-up lenses, I think it's much better. Like clearly, like when it's more like just replicating kind of what John Wick stuff is, that style, and it's a little bit more fluid, I think you can actually tell what's happening in the action. Whereas there are parts of this movie, it's like the action is cool, but I cannot really see it. Like it's either our screen was not good enough in our movie theater, which could play a part, but between it being really dark and just being very zoomed in with these telephoto lenses, I could not really see what was happening.
See, that really only came into a problem for me when it was like anytime he was like running away from like something. It wasn't even necessarily during the actual combat, but it was like during the more exciting moments when he wasn't actually like throwing punches. I thought it like somehow got worse, and it didn't really make sense why it was worse than in the fighting. I'm mixed on the fighting because I think it's really cool. It sets it apart from John Wick in that way. With all the shaky cam and everything, I think it's a really good way of just showing his like rage and everything. I think it makes it feel scrappier and just him like not being nearly as good of a fighter as John Wick is or anything. It feels, it's not, but like guerrilla filmmaking, I guess, just in that way. But yeah, at the same time, there are some parts where it is just really hard to tell what's happening. And it really wasn't as big of a problem as I thought it was going to be, especially towards the beginning. But yeah, it's
yeah, I thought it was better at the end. Like I thought it was less shaky and stuff at the end. And they found a better balance of that. Like there's like the kitchen sequence that's like in the trailer.
No,
like,
yeah,
that's just the end of this movie, and I think it works really well, and it's less shaky. Like I agree, like some of that shakiness, some of that like you're just following this, and it feels not super fluid, but that guerrilla filmmaking, I think that does work, and it does represent his rage and just the dirty, gritty nature of what's happening here, and how the lack of polish works for the filmmaking. But the other scenes, I'm like, I honestly just like, what is even going on at this point?
Yeah, it didn't bother. I mean, it is better at the end. It didn't bother me fully in that first kind of set of action sequences, but it was a little bit more indistinguishable there. It's just, I think I'm a bit more forgiving of it personally.
Yeah, I also just think that there's just overuse of close-ups throughout the entire movie, regardless.
Yeah, regardless of the scene.
And it was distracting while watching it. I'm trying to see, I've got a whole bunch of notes here that like I said, like the pacing I thought was just like this movie took itself very seriously.
Mm-hmm. It did. And what few jokes are in there don't really land.
They don't. And that was a note I had. Like when it tries to be funny, it just, our theater did not think it was very funny.
I mean, there was only 3 of us in there counting us. But no, the other guy didn't laugh either. So, pacing wise, I had mentioned it to you afterwards. It felt it didn't really have like a traditional 3-act structure, or it didn't feel like it. It didn't really because like traditionally in a movie like this, if at the very least you'd have like 3 action sequences, you know, in each act of the movie or whatever. But this movie, it's like there's only really 2, and because of it, it feels like it. I don't know. The structure of it just feels weird. It feels like it, because I honestly, we were getting close to that second like action scene towards the end of the movie, and I'm like, how long has it been? Is this like actually like just the second third of the movie that we're getting to? Is there like a whole other chunk after this? But no, it was the end. And you know, 3-act structure can be broken interesting ways, but I don't think it really helps this movie at all. I think it's a structure for a reason. It works.
I think one of the main things that works for me is the mythology of this movie, the lore that goes on, the whole monkey man aspect of it, and the whole like infusion of like Hinduism and India's like history. I think really that's to me what sets this movie apart and what really works for it, because everything else is just kind of wooden. Like I don't know, it just feels a little bit like a B John Wick spinoff kind of thing. Like we tried to emulate John Wick and we're not quite as good, and that's what the rest of the movie kind of feels like to me, whereas this actually brings something in that John Wick doesn't have.
I do think it's interesting that with like the full Indian like cast and everything, like, you know, and the Dev Patel is like, he's so critical of like the Indian like government and those people in power in India and everything. I think that's very cool. Apparently it's seemingly kind of blocking this from getting an Indian release, kind of ironically, but yeah, I mean, I think that kind of whole aspect is good. The movie is very trans positive too, which I thought was cool. Wasn't necessarily expecting that. But yeah, I don't know.
One of the other just cliche things that's in here for me is that we have a main character who is like, this just shows zero hesitancy to kill anybody except for like the biggest bad villains. That's like, that is one of like, just random people just shoot them in the face or beat the crap out of them. And then like you get to the main villain. It's like, oh gosh, now I'm really like, do I actually want to do this?
Yeah.
And it happens it's not just one time that it happens in this movie. And it just feels like just very formula. Like, okay, well the movie can't end here because we need to I want to do this other action sequence later, or it's too early on. So we just got to like fabricate a way for this to not happen, and the only way to do that is for him to hesitate, and it's just like it feels really cheap.
That ties into my "What are you doing?" I'll just mention briefly because one of my only complaints with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is like that exact thing happens like quite a bit towards the end of the game, because you spend the whole game just like killing people, whatever, it's fine, and then in like there's cutscenes where like a certain character in your party is about to kill someone, but it's in a slightly more brutal fashion, and the rest of the party's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? You've been killing people this whole time. But
yeah, no, I just thought like those are some things for me. Again, so I would say like the flashback stuff just didn't work for me, which kind of leads into the pacing. The telephoto lens is used throughout, overuse of close-ups, lack of clarity in the action, in some, not all of it.
No.
Like there's some actions, like the kitchen one, I think is the best one in the movie for me.
Well,
I think that was really good.
I think for the most part, that whole second action scene is pretty good. Even like when it's in the bar and everything, it is. I mean, as you mentioned after the movie, it feels like it's shot just completely differently. And honestly, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, that could very much be on purpose, because I feel like that middle chunk in the movie is him like finding a purpose for fighting instead of just blind rage. So maybe it is like calming down with the character. Maybe that is on purpose.
But yeah, and so that I really liked the lore. Didn't the humorous bits didn't quite land. Didn't like the hesitancy to kill all of a sudden out of random places, especially with he has such rage. But lots of good things, lots of just misses. Like I think intentional creative decisions that just didn't quite work the way they wanted to, which you would expect from someone making their directorial debut. So I would certainly like to see Dev Patel make another movie, and hopefully he's less maimed through the process.
I mean, very, very promising first outing from him. One thing I wanted to mention, and non-spoilers here, is I think I saw it on a Letterboxd review, but someone pointed out that like there are no establishing shots in this movie. It's like it's kind of hard to tell where anyone is like at all in this movie. And that's, you know, establishing shots, another cliche, but another cliche that's there for a reason. But yeah.
Good storytelling through drums.
Yes.
That's all I'll say about that. I really enjoyed that.
Also, I liked Charlton Copley as the boxing manager guy. I thought he was kind of deliciously antagonistic. He's an actor that I think just pops up in things occasionally and is quite fun. Yeah.
Look, this is going to be the trendy thing to like over Extraction, but I just feel like that's some letterboxed individuals smelling their own farts. And I think these movies are pretty similar.
Yeah, I feel like I'm on even ground here. I think obviously Extraction 2 has that one incredible sequence that is better than probably anything in this, but I just, as a whole, that whole movie is not
it's not. And Extraction 1 the same way, but it's like, is this movie like amazing? I think it's got the pieces. I just don't think it was quite put together.
Yeah.
On paper, it should be better than Extraction.
Yeah, I agree. Has a much smaller budget than Extraction.
Yeah, they really stretched the budget here, and I don't know if that's just because it was filmed in. Well, I guess Extraction was filmed in India too, so I don't know. Maybe it's just because Chris Hemsworth is very expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. You want to give it a rating here?
Yeah. Probably like a 7. I think.
Yeah.
I'm sitting at a 7. I think there's a lot of good things in it. But not quite as great as I was hoping it was going to be. I was way hyped by the trailer. I know I was a lot more excited than you were, but yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was all right. Let's see. Who's this movie for? I think, of course, if you like John Wick, I mean, why not? Why wouldn't you see it if you like Extraction?
Film, yeah.
Although I would say maybe just wait for it to go into streaming. Like, I don't think it's a necessarily gotta see it on the big screen.
Yeah, not
partially because it's like I think because it was on the big screen, I couldn't tell what everything was happening. Not as good as I think any of the John Wick movies.
Yeah, I probably like all the John Wick movies more personally too.
Okay. So there we go. That's our spoiler-free review of Monkey Man. So let's dive into some spoilers, get into some specifics about what we liked and what didn't work for us.
Okay, spoilers for Monkey Man. Jimmy.
I think when he bites off that guy's nose.
That's right.
Takes a couple chomps.
That's towards the end, right?
Yeah, I think so. Just stood out to me.
Yeah, he does that. He does it's in the trailer, but this stabbing the guy's throat with a knife. It's pretty good, or with the knife, but it's in his teeth.
Yeah, that's a good bit.
That's a pretty good bit. Yeah, that whole last like kind of set of action scenes is very good. I mean, the stuff in the kitchen, some of that was shown in the trailer, but it's still all. I in a funny comparison, but when I talked about Kung Fu Panda 4, I had mentioned how good those movies are at using environmental stuff. And this movie is also like that. I feel like so much of the great kills and combat sequences come from just picking up something in the environment or shoving them into something.
Which is what it should be, right? I mean, that's what's going to bring variety to action sequences is what you bring to the choreography and what can you do with the environment. Like, it doesn't mean anything to have a fight in a kitchen if you're just punching each other.
And I think that also sets it apart a bit from John Wick, because John Wick is so much more focused on just actual weapons or like, you know, kung fu or whatever.
Or they're just fighting in a gallery with all these weapons in glass boxes.
Which is funny, but it's so much more focused on actual weapons. So having like makeshift weapons here, I think is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of creativity there. Yeah. So, I along with that, I liked in the bar kind of fight when he's shooting people with bottle rockets. That was pretty good.
That was pretty funny. He takes the lady's hand or thumb off to get her thumbprint.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about
that. There's the moment. I'm just looking through little moments that stood out to me. So we don't really take notes during the movie, but I think sometimes we'll go into the car afterwards and I'll just everything that's in my brain I'll just write down real quick. There's the one bit that we thought we actually got a chuckle was when he's like about to fight that one guy and he just kicks him in the face.
Yeah, in the boxing scene.
Yeah, right before the climactic setup, kind of just setting the tone for I'm gonna beat some.
That was so good. And then I mean his subsequent fight with the big guy was quite good. Love just a smaller guy fighting a big guy. That's always just a good thing in movies.
David versus Goliath. There we go. Here's just a continuity thing for me is like, how is Dev Patel just gorgeous throughout this movie until the end? Is really when he shows any wear to like his face. Yeah. He gets the crap beaten out of him and he just looks fine when he shows up to work.
That first sequence, especially, he is just, going through the ringer, blood everywhere, and he's just like fine. I feel like in the next shot,
he's just a perfectly presentable waiter with burns, third-degree burns on his hands.
Yeah, you know what? That's true, because I was thinking about that too towards the beginning of the movie, how we're introduced with him as being a boxer, and then he gets the job as a waiter, and he's just like, he's fine. I mean,
super elegant.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't necessarily. I don't think it necessarily shows how long it's been in between that boxing scene and him starting the job as the waiter, but I don't know.
It presumes to be like very soon.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's supposed to be that long. So,
all right, here's some things I liked because I've been talking about a lot of things I didn't like. The dog stuff. I loved the dog.
The dog was good.
The very cute dog. I was upset there was no reference to the dog later on in the movie.
I was hoping you'd adopt the dog.
Where's the dog? I have a note that says, "Where's the dog?"
I did like. I liked how that came into play with. That's how he ended up getting the whatever it was.
His gun.
The gun.
He smuggles the gun in because he trains the dog.
Yeah,
that was great.
That was very good.
That dog should have bit some bad guys and got adopted. Should have been like a
John Wick situation.
Yeah, but not the dog doesn't get killed sort of thing.
Well, honestly, I mean, maybe that's maybe that's just part of why they did make it more part of the movie is because like, well, that just increases the John Wick comparisons. Yeah. I don't know.
But loved the dog stuff. I loved that was just really clever to do that as like, here's like this guy's humanity, and that's how it's like he's using it as a tool as well.
The one lady was
the hotel manager lady, or not?
The other lady.
His prostitute lady, I guess.
Whatever they'd call it. But yeah, she didn't really do anything in the movie, did she?
She did. I don't know. She came to fight. There was a lot of just side stuff.
There were certain side characters in this. I'm like, I don't like. Their purpose I didn't really understand, especially her, I guess, is kind of the main one. I'm like, she has that little conversation with him in the alley that is just kind of short or whatever. But aside from that,
I guess you can't handle seeing that, then you can't handle working here or something.
Yeah. And then she, I guess, hits the hotel manager at the end.
Yeah.
But aside from that, she's, I don't know. I mean, Obviously, I think the idea where you're supposed to get is that it's going to be a love interest, but it's like somehow less interesting than that because she just doesn't really do anything. So I don't know.
I guess maybe he's supposed to see parallels with her and his mother, perhaps.
Maybe.
And like seeing that stuff happen to her drives him crazy. And
okay, yeah, that's interesting way to think about it. But it's
a lot of this movie is very surface level. There's just not a ton of. There's depth to certain things and just not to others. It's like, well, why did we even like for a movie that could be shorter and like could benefit from being trimmed up and simplified?
Yeah,
it's like maybe we just should have cut some of that aspect. Or either that or flesh it out, and the in between is kind of the where it just starts to bloat the movie and doesn't really add anything. She was all right. The drums guy was great. I loved drums guy. I think that was the one saving grace of the second act of this movie for me.
that whole sequence with him punching the punching bag and everything to the drums was pretty great. I thought
it was fantastic. It was almost like Kill Bill-esque to me. I don't know exactly why that is. Something maybe what like her in the like I've only seen Kill Bill once, it's like 10 years ago. But for some reason that reminded me of Kill Bill.
I will say a lot of the older people in this movie look very similar. Because I thought like the main antagonist, like guru guy person, looked a lot like some of the characters in that temple.
Oh, you did?
I don't know. I think it was mostly just because of the long gray hair and whatever.
Sure.
It was like very similar, like makeup and outfit and everything. But yeah, it was fine. It's not a big deal or anything.
One thing for me is like, did we need to have another bad guy? Like, do we need to have like the main politician guy and then like the general?
Yeah, because
and then he kills like the general's the guy who really does everything, but then it's like, well, you're kind of responsible for this and you're kind of the leader of this political party or whatever. So you're kind of the head of it. So then he kind of becomes the main bad guy and the whole emotional attachment is just not with his character.
Yeah, that's why the very end confrontation I don't think entirely works. I think his confrontation with the general guy is way better. But yeah, it is strange. It's kind of unclear because obviously the general guy, he's the main, did everything, so that makes sense. But then there's the guy he fights at the end, whatever. And then there's also like the other like politician guy who I guess is like implied to be more of a figurehead than anything, but that's not really explored. He just seems to be like kind of a bad person.
Yeah.
But nothing really ever comes of that character. You didn't really need all that. Yeah.
How long is this movie? Does it
2 hours, I think.
Right at 2 hours. It's like an hour 50. Yeah, 2 hours, 121. So 2 hours and 1 minute. So.
Yeah. I don't think it was strange to me because you don't need that many villains. I also feel like the movie was just like it didn't need to be like him taking, because it wasn't really him like taking down this political party because
when you
disagreed
kill
with
that
them.
figurehead, it's kind of, that's what it becomes.
Yeah.
I guess his revenge quest turns into like, well, this is the idea of it is it like, oh, this is not just me. I'm not the only person suffering from this. I'm just
these people are being discriminated
microcosm
against.
And this macrocosm. So then I'm cutting off the snake's head.
Yeah. So I guess there's that aspect, but you can kill the big main guy at the end, but I would still save at least the general guy for the last, because that's the emotional payoff for our main character.
At least they're different vibes. Like it was like the second one was more of like the conversation. Then the first one was just a fight.
Yeah, big beatdown.
Cool. I mean, again, cool.
Good fight there. Yeah, I thought.
But
very brutal kill at the end.
Yeah, I liked it. I'm trying to think of any just other like specific things I want to highlight.
Monkey Man dies, presumably.
Golly, I don't even remember that.
At the end? Yeah, because he gets
stabbed.
He gets stabbed, and then like the movie ends. I think like the last shot is him like falling out of frame. So, he could live, but
golly,
if they want to make a sequel, but probably dead.
No, I mean, well, John Wick's probably dead at the end of chapter 4, but
true.
John Wick 5 is in development. So, they literally buried him.
Yeah,
didn't they?
They did. Winston was at his grave.
Yeah, no, I think I'm pretty much exhausted what I was going to say about this movie. A little disappointing. But again, Dev Patel, I think a lot of passion was put in this. Like we said, blood, sweat, and tears, quite literally. I like how he took a big swing and just went for it. And I think it's just awesome that, he made a movie. That's just incredible. That Jordan Peele liked it enough to like distribute it in theaters. I think that's really cool. And that's a cool reflection of Jordan Peele as well as an artist, a creator.
Yeah, I did want to mention, because I mentioned it in non-spoilers. Context aside of how often it's brought up in the movie, I do think that whole sequence of like the flashback of like seeing exactly what happened and everything, the general burning the village and then killing his mom and everything. I thought that was pretty effective. I thought it was probably the most effective part of the story for me. Was seeing all of that and being like, yeah, wow, this was horrible. This is a horrible thing. So no wonder this guy wants revenge.
I guess from a standpoint of like, the bad guys in this movie are just like over the top evil. They are too. Like there's not like any moral ambiguity to this movie at all. It's not like, oh, here's some nuance and here's this person's perspective. It's like, no, you're just an awful person who just takes advantage of the poor people. And I'm gonna like try to assault the women of this village, and then I'm gonna burn it down and kill everybody. I'm just gonna shoot indiscriminately while people are watching like a movie or play or something.
Literally burn this woman alive.
Yeah,
douse her in gasoline.
So I don't think you needed more. I don't think you need more than that. I think they just should have leaned into the simplicity. Like just don't even go for the nuance. Just like, here's the Monkey Man stuff, cool lore. Here we go. This bad guy, point A, point B, some cool action stuff in the middle, and just lean into that, and or just go the opposite direction. Have this whole ambiguous and added 30 minutes and figure it out. And but like I said, it's kind of like this in between, and I don't think they quite balanced it.
Could have been a mystery angle to it. That could have been cool, but
I don't know. Here we go. It's during Diwali, but they didn't really show Diwali.
Yeah,
which I thought was weird.
There was a few. I guess you could classify them kind of as establishing shots, where it's just like, a few random shots of people at this festival kind of dressed up or whatever, but that's really all you get.
Yeah.
So
I think lean even more into like the culture aspect of it. I think would have been great.
I thought this was one of the more clever bits I did like was when he says his name is Bobby. Yeah. And then it like pans by the shelf with the cleaning product that says Bobby on it. I was like, okay, that's kind of subtle. I liked that. That was fun. But yeah, I don't think there's,
which maybe even like he plays off his hands as like being bleached, like a bleaching thing. Yeah, so like it may almost implies that he also got that idea from that same bleach product. Like, so just very versatile. Always check your surroundings so you know what to lie about. There you go. That's the takeaway.
I forget, did that sidekick-esque character come back at the end?
I forget. That guy was so confusing to me because I'm like, why does he get in? What is his interest in helping Dev Patel's character? Like, I didn't get his angle in it at all. Like
I got like the start of it because it was kind of, I can't remember exactly what Dev Patel says, but he's like, come to my match tonight and bet against me or whatever.
Yeah, like getting the money. But like when stuff hits the fan,
I don't
and people
understand
are shooting at him. Like, why is he jumping in the not the rickshaw, but what do you call that little thing?
I can't. I don't
buggy
remember.
Thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what? Why are you getting in this?
Yeah.
Like,
why are you running with it? Yeah.
You are not that invested in this guy unless he just really wants to make those bets.
And I could be getting the matches mixed up, but if I recall correctly, he's at like the match at the end of the movie where like Dev Patel kind of showcases his newfound skills or whatever. But I'm trying to remember if he's in the movie after that at all. I'm like, he was like he was like wanted for like association with him, but I don't think that ever came into play really.
I mean, here's the thing: if he is involved, it's very minimal.
Yeah. We could just be misremembering some stuff too, because one last thing I'll say, and I think sitting on it, it's not quite this unmemorable, but I kind of came out of this thinking like it's like Atomic Blonde in a way, which was a movie I remember enjoying seeing and had some very cool fight scenes in it, but I cannot tell you a single thing about that movie, Atomic Blonde. I was like, I'm wondering if this is going to go that way. I don't think so. I think there's some more memorable stuff in it. I think the fights themselves are just more interesting, but yeah, there's some stuff I'm already kind of blanking on a little bit. Just a few days out from it.
Yeah. Well, that is Monkey Man. Let us know what you think down in the comments on YouTube, or email in if you are listening on your favorite podcasting platform. With that being said, let's move on to our final segment of the episode, which of course is What Are You Doing?
What are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing? No, what are you doing? What are you doing?
All right, Jimmy, this week, watch some stuff.
Good news.
Of course.
There would be no segment, Holden, if you didn't watch some stuff. So way to do your job.
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm really carried this segment because Jimmy never does anything. So
No.
he's too busy. And I'm not. So I started rewatching the Evangelion rebuild movies, which there's 4, kind of the remake movies I had mentioned previously. I watched the first 2. First one is basically just the first 6 episodes of the show, but remade in like a way nicer animation.
Okay.
Very similar, but it has like this little tidbit at the end that you're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So is it worth, should we just watch that? And then
No.
the show?
You should absolutely watch the show and then watch these movies. I know some people that watch the movies first and then the show, and I just don't think that works because I watched the second movie, and the second movie, it starts out and it's doing some similar things, but then in like the second like half, it just like goes in a completely different direction. And the way that movie ends, I haven't really had time to watch the third one yet, but I am very curious to see what happens, because I think after this movie, it's just completely different. Because like the whole, I described it previously as like the Final Fantasy VII remake, where it starts out very similar and then it goes off in this complete direction. And I think this other direction. And I think the whole point of it is kind of, it's like the creator made these movies, the creator of the series. I think it's him just like reanalyzing kind of the themes of the movie and kind of recontextualizing them for how he is as a person in like modern times, as well as just like how times have changed since the series. So very interesting, but if you're at all interested, absolutely watch the show. It's that you definitely need to watch that before you watch the movies. I would say you'd get a lot more out of the movies after that. But gorgeous movies, great stuff. Very, very good so far. Then I also watched the Phantom of the Opera movie from 2004. Gerard Butler is the Phantom.
I didn't realize that.
Which is crazy to me. He doesn't look like Gerard Butler, for one thing. Second of all, I'm so used to him being just generic action guy, and here he is singing. I had heard people say they didn't like his singing. I might not be as critical, I guess, in that regard, but I thought he did a pretty good job for someone who doesn't necessarily do that on the regular, I guess. But I will say I'm not like the biggest Phantom of the Opera fan. I mostly watch.
I don't really know what the story even is.
Yeah, for me, I don't think the story is like that is, and this is going to be a hot take, I'm sure. I don't think the story is interesting enough for it to be like 2.5 hours, like a lot of musicals are. And I also am just like not that into operatic music, and that's like what the entire like score is, with some other stuff kind of thrown into like fusion stuff. I do like the main song a lot that everyone knows. That's good, but the rest of it, yeah, that song, which by the way, that organ part is plagiarized from a Pink Floyd song. Fun fact, look it up.
Wow.
I don't know how I learned that, but the only reason I watched it is because my roommate Kale put it on. I was building Legos when it started. I got the Lego Stitch set.
You did. I was wondering.
Well, I got it for Easter. I think shout out to Darla and Scott Sutter. They got it for me for Easter.
Wow.
Just a little Easter gift. So it was kind of cool.
Nice. I wish my parents still got me Easter presents.
But then aside from that, last night I rewatched Lisa Frankenstein. Really a lot better on second viewing, like I
Really?
predicted. Yeah, I really like that movie. That movie is going to be a cult classic. Absolutely. There's no way it's not going to be. I think like my initial criticism of the first 40 minutes, not really liking it. I think in context of knowing what happens later in the movie, it's a lot better. So I think it's a lot better on rewatch. And then I finished Reservation Dogs, finished the final season of that. Very good series. It's a series I always forget a lot about, and then I get back and I'm like, God, I love these characters. I love this whole. I love how it just immerses you in like reservation culture and everything. It's so interesting to me as someone who's not familiar with it firsthand. So loved that.
Where's the set?
Oklahoma, I believe. I can't remember. I don't know if it's a real reservation or not, but. And then just I am on the final chapter of Final Fantasy. I was hoping I was going to finish it this morning, and then I did notes and didn't have time, but I'm 100% just going to go home right after this and finish the game. So
Is this one you'll get a platinum trophy for?
I don't think so. I want to, and like I had mentioned before, I want to do the hard mode run because I had so much fun with the remake, the first part.
Is that a required trophy or something?
It is.
Okay.
And that's why I did it for the first one initially. But this one, there's.
Is it a game that you have to unlock the hard mode by finishing it
Yes.
first? Okay.
Yeah.
So you have to play it twice to get the platinum trophy.
Yeah. Which does it kind of sucks for people that love playing on hard mode the first time. But there's this one trophy where you have to like get like the best. You have to get the highest score on like all of these different mini games in the game to get these different collectibles, and it just seems like so much. I do not think I have the patience for it. There's a lot of mini games in the game. A lot of them are good, but seems a lot of work. But still really like the game. Jimmy, what about you? What have you been doing?
I'm still playing A Plague Tale because just haven't been able to find much time. But because a lot of sports is going on. We got March Madness here in the United States. College basketball, both men's and women's, have been very exciting. And but I maybe played a little bit of that. I'm still just not quite done with that game. But I have been watching House of the Dragon again.
Sure.
Very much enjoying it. Great show.
How far in it are you?
I think I'm on the 6th episode. I've been watching that when I've been working out of 10. It's out of 10. I believe the new season's gonna be 8.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it's so good. I think they did it, especially like knowing what happens now and all the time jumps and everything. That it's crazy how much stuff happens in one of those episodes. There is just
I remember it being pretty chock full.
There is no fat on that at all. It is just very trim and excellently casted. Millie Alcock was just incredible as young Rhaenyra. So I just started basically the episode where it switches actors.
Time jump, yeah.
But yeah, no, like there's just so much foreshadowing of things that are to come. I'm sure there's foreshadowing for things yet to come.
Probably, yeah.
Here,
that makes sense.
And so it's just really well done, and I don't think it quite gets enough credit from like different people that it is pretty much just as good as Game of Thrones at its best. So very excited for that second season and where it's going to go. Just love to be back in Westeros, you know. Otherwise, I've been listening to Dune a little bit more. You know, it's just fun to listen to the differeces between the movie and the book. And like, you know, I just was reading, you know, Paul and his mom have just kind of met the Fremen, and there's like a little moment where Stilgar and Lady Jessica are like pondering marriage. It's like, well, that's not in the movie at all.
Yeah,
different things like that, and yeah. So I really enjoy it. So yeah, that's what I got. Holden, what's going on next week? What are we watching?
Next week we have, as we previously talked about on this episode, Alex Garland's Civil War. So we'll see how that is, I guess.
Will there be a civil war between us?
I don't know. Maybe one of us will love it, one of us will hate it.
It cannot be worse than that.
No. At the very least, it has to be more entertaining than Men.
Oh, it's gotta be, right?
Like, concept-wise, it's more interesting than Men.
I don't want to know what the American Civil
Google
War.
Civil War.
Well,
Civil
the
War.
movie does pop up.
Under 2 hours, like that. I like that.
Hour and 50 minutes. That seems like an interesting movie to fit under 2 hours.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
a
it's
79 on Metacritic.
okay. Well, maybe it's good. Who knows? It's no doubt going to be a movie that's
Now, should I just Google Men?
Men 2022 film. There you go.
Men's got a 65 on Metacritic. That's too high.
That's too high. Gosh, what a just wet fart of a film. That some people are really like.
Wow. Google users hate it though. 2.6 out of 5.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably a movie that general audiences hate, and that's the
'Cause
as
it's
you
bad?
put it. Yeah, that's the as you put it. The letterboxed people probably really like it. I don't know.
What
I
does
don't.
it have
I don't
on
actually. I don't know what it has on
Letterboxd?
letterboxed.
Is that something do you need the app for it? It's got 2.8.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's not. It's not. It's more. It's split on letterbox too.
Yeah. It was just not a good movie.
No, sucked. I don't remember what I gave it, but probably low. Not probably too high. Quite frankly. Anyway, yeah, we'll do that next Civil War next week. If you want to leave us a request, you can do so by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or email us at tompodcast@gmail.com or donate to our Patreon. I believe that's it. Jimmy?
All right, sweet. Until next time, adios, pantalones.
Love you.